The town of Dustwind sat under a sky forever scorched by the sun, its main street lined with creaking wooden buildings and the occasional drunken shout. It wasn't the kind of place to raise dreams, but it was all Clara Myles had. Once the daughter of a preacher back east, Clara had come to Dustwind 4 years prior after a scandal back home, a man who'd promised her marriage, then left her in shame. Her family had cast her out. With nothing but a worn-down trunk and her pride, Clara had built a life teaching frontier children letters and numbers in a one-room schoolhouse. But Dustwind was not kind to women alone. Men leered. Old women gossiped. Her employer paid her little more than a miner's lunch. At 27, Clara bore herself like a matron, but still carried the sadness of a girl left behind. Then, one dry afternoon, the ground shook under hoofbeats. A rider approached the schoolhouse, tall, broad-shouldered, towering even in the saddle. His skin was bronzed by sun and ancestry, jet hair tied back with leather, and a long, thick scar dragged across his left cheek like a badge. His name was Tohan Black Elk, a half Comanche who had once ridden with the feared Owl Creek Riders, but was now a rancher on the edge of the Badlands. He dismounted with a kind of still grace, his boots leaving deep prints in the dust. "Miss Myles," he said in a low, calm voice, "I need a wife, and you need strong sons to protect you." Clara blinked, stunned. The children in her schoolroom gawked. "You can't just ride up and declare that," she said, voice shaking more from confusion than fear. "I can if it's true," Tohan replied. "I watched your roof sag through the winter. I heard the marshal let that drunk touch your fence last week and walked away. You're alone, and I'm tired of being alone too." Clara's breath caught. She hadn't cried in years, but that day something broke. Chapter 2, Between Fire and Thorns. Tohan gave her a week to decide. No pressure, no sweet words. He simply rode off, leaving a small sack of winter apples on her porch. Word spread fast. His half-savage, the Reverend spat. His mother was Apache and his father a ghost, the saloon girls whispered. He killed men, someone muttered. But Clara did her own asking. She learned that Tohan Black Elk had once burned down a trading post to save his mother from white captors, that he took in orphan boys and raised them on his land, that he never drank, never gambled, and once, during a blizzard, brought a dying cow into his own house to warm it. And when Clara was followed home by 3 drunk railroad men one night, it wasn't the marshal who stepped in. It was Tohan, out of the shadows, fists bloody before she could scream. So the next morning, with shaking hands, she packed her few dresses, her books, and the old locket from her mother. She locked the schoolhouse door for the last time. When Tohan came for her that afternoon, she met him at the edge of town. "I won't be a quiet woman," she warned, "and I don't know how to birth sons." "I don't need quiet," he said. "I need loyalty. The rest we'll figure out." Chapter 3, The Dustwind Wedding. There was no preacher, no white veil, only the Comanche sky, the scent of sagebrush, and the beating of hooves. He married her in the language of his mother, Nenitchistahi, "I will walk with you." She replied in trembling English, "Then I'll walk beside you." He kissed her once, gently, and they rode to his ranch. Clara had never seen so much space, rolling hills, wild horses, rows of beans and corn, and the endless sky. He had built the house himself, large logs, riverstone fireplace, and a wide porch with a handmade swing. "I'll give you your own room," he said, "until you say otherwise." But Clara didn't want another room. Chapter 4, Fire in the Night. Their life was not easy. There were wolves that killed their chickens. Horses broke fences. Tohan's shoulder ached from a wound long ago. Clara's fingers bled from working a land she did not know. But they grew close. She taught him to read from her old primers. He taught her to shoot with steady hands. She nursed a sick foal for 3 nights, and he carved her a wooden horse in thanks. There were no grand gestures, only quiet devotion. Then came June, and with it, fire. Riders stormed the ranch while Tohan was away delivering cattle. Bandits, former Owl Creek men who remembered Tohan and wanted blood. Clara stood between them in the barn with a shotgun in her hands and her heart thundering. "You won't get far," she warned. "You ain't got a man here," the leader sneered. "I am the man here," she said. She fired, hit one, missed a second, was thrown to the ground. Her arm twisted. She screamed, but she never begged. They would have done worse, but thunder rolled across the plains. Tohan came like a storm. He did not shoot. He rode through them, swinging like a reaper, his long knife flashing. 2 were dead before they realized he was among them. The 3rd begged. Tohan looked to Clara, her lip bleeding, dress torn. "What happens to him?" he asked. She spat. "Bury him, then feed his horse." Chapter 5. The Bitter Winter. The fire had taken the barn, half the hay, and most of their food. Winter came hard. Clara's arm healed wrong. Her fingers stiffened in the cold. Tohan cut and chopped every day, but frost bit deeper than it had in years. One night, huddled by the fire, Clara whispered, "We might not make it." Tohan didn't argue. Instead, he cradled her close and said, "Then we'll die holding each other." But they didn't. A Lakota trader, an old friend of Tohan, arrived with salted meat and furs. Clara baked him bread with the loss of their flour and gave him a book of Psalms in return. That winter, she taught 3 orphan boys who lived in the barn how to read. One of them called her Ma by spring. Chapter 6. The Seed of Hope. By late spring, Clara stood in the garden planting squash with one hand and shading her belly with the other. Tohan came behind her, wrapped his arms around her gently. 3 months, she said. He placed his hand on her womb, then over her heart. "You saved me," he whispered. "No," she replied, tears falling freely for the first time in years. "You made me brave." They rebuilt the barn, added more horses, and opened the ranch as a home for other unwanted souls, half-breeds, orphans, widows, outlaws seeking redemption. Clara wrote letters to the new governor asking for a school. In time, she got one, named Myles House, in her honor. Epilogue, Sons of Dust and Flame. Years later, Clara would sit on the same porch, older now, gray strands in her hair, a baby on her hip, and 3 strong boys arguing over a saddle in the yard. Tohan still rode, but not to war. He rode to meet travelers, bringing strays, and help where the law would not. Clara's fingers still ached when it stormed, and her heart still remembered the girl she had been. But every night, when her husband lay beside her, she knew love wasn't about sweet promises. It was about showing up, with fists, with fire, or simply with a quiet presence that never left. And every time their boys ran through the dust, their feet echoing off the land, Clara would smile, because the giant Comanche had kept his word. And she, the lonely teacher, had found more than sons. She had found a home.